welcome to your Tuesday mini lesson. Before we get started, I just wanted to point out that we have our Google checkout online for books if you want to be reading at home. Right now I'm reading Petey. I love this book. It's a classic. It's from Trinity's library. Our girls think of everything and they fought for justice. I'm pointing these two out because as you're doing your podcasting on social justice, there are a lot of good books on the list that would help you to do your research. All right, so we're gonna hop right into our lesson today. You either should have this printed out from home, I sent it in an email, or if you picked up your packet on Monday, I already have this all ready to go for you. It says Tuesday mini lesson at the top. Now, before you started, I said that there was a little bit of a pre-lesson. So for the pre-lesson, you should have already filled out those 4 questions that I asked you, and we're gonna go ahead and review them right now. So the first question that you have filled out already is, what is a podcast? A podcast is an audio program just like talk radio. So anytime you turn on the radio in the car, that's an example of podcasting. It's going to be just the audio there for you. Next, what is live streaming? So live streaming is when you're streaming media in real time or live. So a lot of us have probably been using this recently with going to church. A lot of our churches aren't able to meet right now in the building, and so our pastors might be live streaming for us so that we can watch all together from home. And then what is vodcasting? So a vodcast is going to be a step above a podcast, where it not only has the audio, but it's going to also add video features to it. I asked you one more question. How often do you use podcasts, live streaming, and vodcasting in your everyday life? It's going to be different for all of us. For me, the thing I use the most is podcasting. I listen to a lot of podcasts on my way into work. I have a longer drive, so it's nice to take the 45 minutes to listen to a sports podcast or a faith-based podcast by my pastor, or something related to education. So it's always a good thing that I like to use. I'm wondering what you use more, podcasting, live streaming. Do you not use them at all? All right, now that we've kind of covered our pre-lesson, we're gonna just move right into our introduction of podcasts. We're gonna be listening to one together. I sent you a link. It's listed on your page as well, right here at the bottom. If you want to click on that to listen alone, you can, or you could just listen to me right now, and I'm going to pause it here and there to point different things out. The podcast is called Could It Rain Lemonade? And that's an NPR podcast for students. So we're going to go ahead and listen.
You're listening to Brains On from NPR News and Southern California Public Radio. We're serious about being curious. I'm your host, Molly Bloom. Today we're going to take a slight twist on this. That's right, rain.
I'm going to pause for just a moment. Do you know what the topic is already? Yep, you're right. It's rain. She mentions it right away. Did you notice anything besides her voice? Yep, she's using sound effects. It's going to keep your listener very interested.
9-year-old Izzy is kind of an expert on the subject. She's from Seattle, and in addition to coffee, computers, and throwing fish, Seattle is known for rain. Izzy has an interesting thought experiment about a very special kind of rain.
If there's a lake of lemonade and it evaporated, would it rain lemonade the next day?
Good.
Okay, so this is a great question. If there was a lake that was completely filled with lemonade, would it be able to evaporate and then come back as rain? I want you to make a hypothesis right now. I know what mine is, but we're going to listen to see, could it actually rain lemonade if we had enough in a lake?
Good question, Izzy. And now I'm a little thirsty.
That's producer Mark Sanchez expressing his need for lemonade. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Molly.
So how did you track down the answer to Izzy's question? Did you actually fill a lake with lemonade?
Oh, I wish I did. I wish I could, but...
Okay, we're going to pause it again really quickly. How many voices have you heard so far? 3, right? We have our narrator, then we have Molly, who actually says her question, and then we have this new character, Mark, who's going to be probably interviewed during this process. The more voices that you have in your podcast, the more interesting it can be.
But sadly, no. And since we don't have the time or money to fill a lake with lemonade, we're going to have to build one in our minds. First, let's
Notice those sound effects.
agree our lemonade is going to be made of 3 simple ingredients: lemon, sugar, and water.
Sounds delicious already. Go on.
A normal recipe yields 2 quarts of lemonade, but we'll need to fill an entire lake.
How big is this lake?
Just so you can hear that, you hear him making changes in his voice to narrate it a little bit more interestingly. And then you're also hearing, again, those sound effects. You can hear that rain as they're talking. You don't have to stop for the sound effect. Notice the voice and the sound effects are happening at the same exact time.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I live in Minneapolis near a pretty big lake called Lake Harriet. And since we can't drain that and fill it with lemonade, I was thinking we could at least go off its size. So I found out that Lake Harriet has a volume of about 10,134 acre-feet.
So in lemonade, that would be...
1 acre-foot is equal to 1,303,000 quarts.
Whoa. So in order to fill...
I'm going to pause it right now. You can see the benefit of having a vodcast as opposed to a podcast. Podcasts, for me, they're super easy to listen to because I'm an auditory learner. But for somebody who wants to jot down those facts, it might be good to have a vodcast where you're flashing those numbers on the screen, because right now I don't even remember what numbers he was just telling me. And it might be important to his podcast.
10,134 acre-feet.
We'll need 13,200,000,000 quarts of lemonade.
Wow.
Which means we'll have to make our recipe 6,600,000,000 times over. So we have a lake full of lemonade, and now we just need a quick recap on how it rains normally.
We actually did a whole episode on the water cycle.
A quality episode.